Hello and welcome back to part 7 of Converted to Islam's video, Paul and Crucifixion.
Romans 3:7, Paul says he spreads evil and falsehood.
Let's look at Romans 3 verse 7, and let's see who the one who's lying and teaching falsehood, because it's you. And this is why you need to check up on everything Muslims say, because, as we see, there's something in Islam called taqiyya, which is lying about things to promote Islam. Now, starting from verse 5, "But if our unrighteousness brings out God's righteousness more clearly, what shall we say? That God is unjust and bring his wrath on us?" I'm using a human argument, meaning this was the argument the Romans were giving. Certainly not. So he's against that. If that were so, how could God judge the world? Someone might argue, if my falsehood enhances God's truthfulness and so increases his glory, why am I considered condemned as a sinner? So this is what somebody might say. This is not what he is saying. Why not say, as we are being slanderously reported, as saying, and as some claim that we say, let us do evil, that good may result. Their condemnation is deserved. This is what he's saying. Their condemnation for teaching such a thing is deserved. They will be condemned for teaching this. He is defending against arguments people are using like this. He's not saying, I'm spreading it by falsehood or being slanderous. He's saying this is what they're saying, and they will be condemned for it. So way to try and twist those scriptures.
Philippians 1:18, Paul endorses the spread of Christianity through evil intentions, envy, and selfish ambitions. And Philippians 1:18, Paul endorses the spread of Christianity through evil intentions, envy, and selfish ambitions. And Galatians 5:5, Paul said circumcision is worthless.
Philippians. I'm just going to pause it while I get the verse.
Paul endorses the spread of Christianity through evil intentions, envy, and selfish ambitions. And Galatians 5:5, Paul said circumcision is worthless. Hallucinations. If anyone knows Christian history, they'll know that. Also, 2 Corinthians 12, verse 16, Paul converted evil and false. Paul converted people to Christianity through deceit. Romans 3:7, Paul says he spreads evil and falsehood. Philippians 1:18, Paul endorses.
Let's read that. Paul is saying 1:18. Okay, so he's saying, I'm going to start at verse 15. "It is true that some preach Christ out of envy and rivalry, but others out of goodwill. The latter do so in love, knowing that I am put here for the defense of the gospel. The former preach Christ out of selfish ambition, not sincerely, supposing that they can stir up trouble for me while I am in chains. But what does it matter? The important thing is that in every way, whether from false motives or true, Christ is preached, and because of this I rejoice." So first of all, he's saying, making the distinguish. You see how you're trying to corrupt these verses? What he's doing is saying that the latter, the ones who do it for goodwill, are the ones that do it in love, and that are the ones that Paul want to do. The others do it to try and stir Paul up and make him angry and make him have to go against the church. But either way, he's saying, you know what? At least they're not like the heathen going out drinking and not doing anything. At least they're preaching Christ. It's the lesser of two evils. At least Christ is being preached somehow. So he's not endorsing going and doing that. He's saying that if they do that, well, what can I do? I'm in chains. I'm locked up. I'm against it. But at least they're preaching Jesus.
This is the spread of Christianity through evil intentions, envy, and selfish ambitions. And Galatians 5:5, Paul said circumcision is worthless. And he even exposes Peter's hypocrisy in Galatians 2:14. Yet Paul himself has Timothy circumcised in Acts 16:13. So this shows Paul's hypocrisy. Also, Paul.
Right, because they were saying that he was, that Timothy, he was, his mother was, I believe, Jewish, and his father was Greek, or his father was Jewish, and his mother was Greek, and everybody was saying, no, he's a Greek, he's uncircumcised, and he has no authority to teach, and blah, 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 and he did this. But then later on, he was sorry for doing that. He was against it. He made a mistake. So if making a mistake is doesn't make anybody a teacher, at least the Bible is being honest and reporting things as is. Your Quran only shows supposedly the good light of things. It's only in the Hadiths where you learn about the true nature of Muhammad to a degree. It's only in the writings after, written by those who knew him, that were exposing him. So the Bible records things as it is, good or bad, and how God deals with them. Moses killed somebody and buried him. This was wrong. And, people make mistakes. And then God deals with them and punishes them for it.
Paul wanted to castrate his opponents in Galatians 5:12, cutting off their penises. And of course, these opponents are other Christians.
What? Galatians 5:12. Okay. Brothers, if I am still preaching circumcision, why am I still being persecuted? In that case, the offense of the cross has been abolished. As for those agitators, I wish they would go to the whole way and emasculate themselves. You, my brothers, were called to be free. But do not use your freedom to indulge the sinful nature. Rather, serve one another in love. The entire law is summed up in a single command: love your neighbor as yourself. What he's saying is the irony is that they were so hard pressed on people being circumcised and not by faith and believing the gospel, that he said, you know what, if that's such a big deal for you, why don't you just cut it off completely? He's not saying it or endorsing to go and do that or forcing them. It's he was just using language. And look, isn't it funny that there's a whole chapter of the Quran defending the penis of Muhammad, and that Allah said he's going to cut the other person's penis off? So if you have a problem with that, why don't you have a problem with it in the Quran? And let me just get the chapter for you. Okay, so it's chapter 108 of the Quran, and here we are at tafsir.com, where what happened was a man accused Muhammad that his private part wasn't working, and Muhammad comes back and he says, no, it's not yours who isn't working. And it's funny that the guy who said that, he had lots of kids, and Muhammad had none, and he couldn't have any kids. Yet then, what happens? In 108, he says, I entered paradise and came to a river whose banks had tents made of pearls. So I thrusted my hand into its flowing water and found that it was the strongest smell of musk. So I asked, O Jibreel, what is this? He replied, this is Al-Kawthar, which Allah the Mighty and Majestic has given you. Al-Bukhari recorded this in Sahih, so did Muslim, on the authority of Anas bin Malik. In this version, Anas said, when the Prophet was taken up to heaven, he said, I came to a river whose banks had dunes of hallowed pearl. I said, O Jibreel, what is this? He replied, this is Al-Kawthar. This is the wandering of Al-Bukhari. Ahmed recorded as blah 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 blah. So saying, no, I'll give you rivers of sperm in heaven. And then Allah is saying that person will be that person will be cut off. His private part will be cut off in heaven. What a dumb religion.